Sometimes the people closest to you aren't the ones who save you, they're the ones who sharpen the knife. Wealthy wife pretends to be in a coma. Husband showed up with his mistress to claim her wealth. Today's story is about Rachel Donovan, a self-made entrepreneur who built a luxury yacht rental business from scratch. She had wealth, success, and what she thought was a loving marriage, until a boating accident changed everything. The first thing Rachel Donovan became aware of was pain. Dull, throbbing pain radiating through her body. Her eyelids felt impossibly heavy, but her mind was beginning to clear. Hospital sounds filtered in, the steady beep of monitors, the soft squeak of rubber soles on linoleum, hushed voices moving past. She remembered pieces, driving home from the marina, her phone lighting up. Tyler's voice on the other end, frantic, something about a client emergency. Then, the bridge. The moment she pressed the brakes and nothing happened. The horrifying lurch of acceleration, no stopping, just impact. Guardrail. Then the plunge. Rachel tried to open her eyes, but a rush of nausea stopped her cold. She stayed still, her mind trying to catch up, when the door to her hospital room creaked open. "How is she today?" Tyler's voice, her husband of 9 years. A wave of relief washed over her. He was here. She wasn't alone. Everything would be okay. "No change?" A woman replied. "Probably a nurse. The doctor will be in shortly to update you." "Thank you," Tyler said, his voice lined with concern. Rachel fought to lift her eyelids, to move, to show them she was awake. But her body betrayed her. She heard the nurse's footsteps retreat, the soft click of the door, and then another voice. Feminine, intimate, familiar. "Is she still out?" the woman asked. "Completely unconscious," Tyler replied. His tone had changed, relieved, almost light. "Doctor says she might never wake up, so our plan worked perfectly." Rachel's pulse quickened. Her mind froze, a soft giggle. That voice. Sabrina, her assistant of 4 years. "The brake failure worked better than we expected," Tyler said, now cheerful. "Now we just wait for nature to take its course." There was the sound of movement, then a kiss. "You're brilliant, Tyler," Sabrina murmured. "I knew you could pull it off." The heart monitor beside Rachel beeped just a little faster. Slightly faster. She forced herself to breathe slowly, evenly, terrified they would notice she was conscious. "Careful," Tyler whispered. "Even like this, she's still causing trouble." "How long do we have to wait?" Sabrina asked, impatience clear in her tone. "Not long. I've already spoken to her lawyers. With her in this condition, as her husband, I get control of everything. The yachts, the waterfront properties, her accounts, all of it." "And once you have control?" Sabrina pressed. "Then we have a tragic conversation with the doctors about quality of life and her wishes not to be kept alive by machines." Tyler's voice was cold. Calculating. Rachel was always very clear about that, wasn't she? Lucky to have such an attentive husband who remembered her wishes. They laughed together, the sound piercing Rachel's heart like a physical blow. "I still can't believe how easy it was," Sabrina said, moving around the room. Rachel could hear her heels clicking on the floor. A call about an emergency at the marina. We're rushing to that old bridge where no one would see anything. The mechanic I paid did excellent work. The brake line cut just enough to fail when she needed it most. And with her SUV at the bottom of that ravine, no one's going to look too closely at a simple mechanical failure. Rachel felt sick. The accident wasn't an accident at all. Her husband had tried to kill her, was still trying to kill her, and her own assistant was his accomplice. "Do you think anyone suspects anything?" Sabrina asked. "Who would? Everyone knows we were the perfect couple." Tyler laughed bitterly. "Only you and I know what a cold, controlling witch she really was. Always working, always expanding the business, treating me like I was just another employee instead of her husband. Well, soon you'll have all her money without having to deal with her anymore." "And I'll finally get what I deserve," Sabrina said, after watching her parade around like she was so special. Rachel heard the sound of a drawer opening. "Looking for these?" Tyler asked. "Her diamond earrings," Sabrina squealed softly. "The ones she never let me borrow. Do you mind if I—" "They're yours now, baby. Everything of hers is ours now." Rachel felt a presence close to her bed, could smell Sabrina's distinctive perfume. "I've always known I'd look better in these anyway," Sabrina said, presumably admiring herself in a mirror. In that moment, Rachel made a decision that would change everything. She would not open her eyes. She would not let them know she was conscious. She would pretend to be in a coma until she could figure out how to protect herself. Because if Tyler discovered she was awake, he would surely find another way to finish what he'd started. The next day, Rachel heard the door open and close. She kept her breathing even, her body still. "Good morning, Mrs. Donovan. I'm Dr. Hamid. I'll just be checking your vitals." Rachel felt gentle hands checking the monitors, adjusting something on her arm. She heard the doctor making notes, his pen scratching on paper. He was alone. This might be her only chance. Slowly, carefully, Rachel opened her eyes just a crack. The light was blinding after so long in darkness. "Mrs. Donovan," the doctor gasped, leaning closer. Rachel opened her eyes fully, looking directly at the startled doctor. She raised a trembling finger to her lips. "Please," she whispered, her voice rough from disuse. "Don't tell anyone I'm awake." Dr. Hamid stared at her in shock. "Mrs. Donovan, this is wonderful news. Your husband will be—" "No," Rachel rasped urgently, grabbing his wrist with surprising strength. "My husband, he did this to me. He and my assistant. They tried to kill me. I heard them talking." Dr. Hamid's expression changed from joy to concern. "Mrs. Donovan, you've been through a traumatic experience. Sometimes patients experience confusion or the brake lines," Rachel insisted. "He paid someone to cut my brake lines. They're waiting for me to die so they can take my money. Please. If he knows you're awake, he'll try again." The doctor studied her face intently. "That's a very serious accusation." "I know," Rachel whispered, "but I heard them. They didn't know I could hear everything. Please, Dr. Hamid, I need time to figure out how to protect myself." Dr. Hamid glanced at the door, then back at Rachel. "If what you're saying is true, you could be in danger." "I know I am," Rachel said, a tear sliding down her cheek. "Will you help me?" After a long moment, Dr. Hamid nodded. "I'll continue to report no change in your condition. But Mrs. Donovan, I can't maintain this deception indefinitely. We need to involve the authorities." "Not yet," Rachel pleaded. "Tyler has connections with the local police. I need evidence first. Please, just give me time." "I'll help you," Dr. Hamid finally agreed. "But only for a short while, and if, at any point, I believe you're in immediate danger, I'll have to act." "Thank you," Rachel whispered, closing her eyes. As they heard footsteps approaching, by the time Tyler entered the room, Rachel appeared completely unconscious again, and Dr. Hamid was calmly checking her chart. "Any changes, doctor?" Tyler asked, his voice perfectly calibrated to sound concerned. "No significant changes, Mr. Donovan," Dr. Hamid replied, and Rachel was amazed at how steady his voice remained. Her condition remained stable, but unchanged. "I see," Tyler said, and Rachel could hear the disappointment he was trying to mask. "How long do you think she'll remain like this?" "It's impossible to say. Brain injuries are unpredictable. Some patients wake up after days, others after months or years. Some, unfortunately, never regain consciousness." "And what are her chances of waking up? I mean," Dr. Hamid paused. "Given the extent of her injuries and the time that's passed without improvement, I would say the chances are increasingly slim. But we don't give up hope, Mr. Donovan." "Of course not," Tyler said smoothly. "I just need to be realistic about her care and what she would want." "I understand. We can discuss options in my office later this week. For now, talk to her. Some patients can hear, even in this state." Rachel could almost feel Tyler stiffen. "They can?" His voice had an edge now. "Some research suggests it's possible, though in Mrs. Donovan's case, given the nature of her brain activity, it's unlikely she's processing much, if anything." "I see," Tyler said, sounding relieved. "Well, I'll keep that in mind." After Dr. Hamid left, Tyler sat beside Rachel's bed. She could feel him watching her, and it took all her willpower to keep her breathing even. Her face relaxed. "Rachel, Rachel, Rachel," he said softly, but there was no affection in his voice. "You always did have to do everything the hard way, didn't you? Couldn't just die quickly in the accident, could you? Always have to be in control." He sighed dramatically. "You know, none of this would have happened if you just appreciated what you had. If you treated me like a husband instead of an accessory." His voice hardened. "Do you know how it feels to be introduced as Rachel Donovan's husband at every event? To have everyone know you're just the trophy husband she picked up before she got rich." Rachel felt his hand take hers, and she fought the urge to pull away. "Well, I guess I should thank you for this, at least," he continued. Your condition has everyone so sympathetic. Poor Tyler, they all say. No one questions me taking over the business decisions. Your empire is already starting to become mine. He placed her hand back on the bed carelessly. Sabrina is much better suited to be my wife anyway. She understands what a woman's role should be, and she's 10 years younger than you. Did I ever mention that? Rachel heard him stand up, felt him lean over her. Just between us, he whispered near her ear. I hope you can hear me. I hope somewhere in that brain of yours you know exactly what's happening and can't do a thing about it. That would be perfect justice for how powerless you made me feel all these years. As Tyler left the room, Rachel allowed herself a single tear. How had she never seen the hatred beneath his charming exterior? Had it always been there? Or had it grown over time? She had built her yacht rental empire from a single failing marina location she'd purchased with every cent of her savings. She'd worked 18-hour days for years, turning it into the most successful luxury charter company on the West Coast. Tyler had come into her life when she had just begun to succeed, charming her with his attention and support, or what she had thought was support. Now she understood. He had never been proud of her success. He had been waiting to steal it. Over the next few days, Rachel learned more about her situation than she ever wanted to know. Tyler visited daily, always putting on a show of the devoted husband when staff was present. But the moment he was alone, the mask would drop. He brought Sabrina with him frequently, and they would talk openly about their plans, confident that Rachel couldn't hear them. The transfer of the downtown dock property went through today, Tyler said during one visit. Her signature looks surprisingly good, doesn't it? You've had enough practice, Sabrina laughed. The way you forge it is better than her actual signature. The benefit of watching her sign documents for years, Tyler replied, smugly. The best part is, no one questions it. Why would they? Everyone knows I've been handling things while she's been indisposed. Rachel's mind raced. He was forging her signature, transferring her properties. How many had he already stolen? How much damage had been done? What about the yacht clubs? Sabrina asked. The main one is still tricky. That David guy is being difficult about some of the changes I want to make. The operations manager. I thought you fired him. I did, but he's still causing problems, questioning the authenticity of the paperwork, suggesting we get second opinions on Rachel's condition. He's too loyal to her. Can't you just replace him completely? Not yet. He knows too much about how she ran things. I need to learn more before I can push him out entirely, but soon. Rachel felt a surge of hope. David was questioning things. David was still loyal. She had hired him 5 years ago, recognizing his integrity and intelligence. Maybe he could be an ally. Later that week, Rachel heard Tyler arguing with someone outside her door. I told you you're not authorized to visit her anymore, Tyler was saying angrily. I worked with Rachel for 5 years, Mr. Donovan, came the response. It was David's voice. I just want to see how she's doing. She's exactly the same as she was when you asked last week. Unconscious, unresponsive. The doctors say there's little hope of recovery. Then what's the harm in letting me see her? David pressed. I'm trying to move forward. Tyler said, his voice taking on a wounded tone that Rachel now recognized as completely false. Having her former employees parade through here, it makes it harder to accept what's happening. 10 minutes, David insisted. That's all I'm asking. Fine, Tyler relented after a pause. 10 minutes. But this is the last time, understand? I'm her husband. I decide who visits and who doesn't. The door opened, and Rachel could sense Tyler's irritation as he let David enter. 10 minutes, Tyler repeated. I'll be right outside. The door closed, and Rachel heard David approach her bed. Hey, Rachel, he said softly. It's David. His voice was gentle, so different from how Tyler spoke to her when they were alone. Rachel wished desperately that she could respond, give some sign that she could hear him. Things aren't going well at the company, David continued. Tyler's making changes, big ones, selling properties, firing people you've had for years. He sighed heavily. I tried to stop him, told him. You wouldn't want this, David said, but he says he has power of attorney now. David moved closer. Something doesn't feel right about any of this, Rachel. The accident, Tyler taking control so quickly. I've been asking questions. Maybe too many questions. He fired me yesterday. Rachel felt a surge of anger. David had been the backbone of her operations, the one person she trusted implicitly with her business. "I don't care about the job," David continued, "but I care about what's happening to everything you built." His voice dropped lower. "I care about what happened to you. The police report on your accident seems simplified. No real investigation into the brake failure, just mechanical error." Rachel felt a tear slide down her cheek before she could control it. "Rachel?" David's voice changed, became more alert. "Rachel, can you hear me?" She wanted so badly to open her eyes to tell him everything. But what if Tyler came back? What if he was watching somehow? "Your heart rate just increased," David said, and Rachel could hear the growing excitement in his voice. "And that tear. Rachel, if you can hear me, I'm going to find out what really happened. I promise you that." The door opened abruptly. "Time's up," Tyler said coldly. "I was just saying goodbye," David replied, and Rachel could hear the new determination in his voice. "Well, now you have. Don't come back, David. You're no longer welcome here." After David left, Tyler approached Rachel's bed. "Loyal employees," he scoffed, "always sticking their noses where they don't belong. Don't worry, dear wife. He won't be a problem much longer." Rachel's thoughts raced. She needed to find a way to communicate with David. But how? How could she reach out without Tyler discovering she was conscious? 2 weeks after Rachel first regained consciousness, she overheard a conversation that chilled her to the bone. "I'd like to discuss end-of-life options for my wife," Tyler was saying to Dr. Hamid. They were standing just inside her room, Tyler having requested a private consultation. "Mr. Donovan," Dr. Hamid replied cautiously, "while your wife's condition has not improved, it hasn't deteriorated either. It's quite early to be having this discussion." "Doctor, I know my wife. Rachel was always very clear about not wanting to be kept alive by machines if there was no hope of recovery. You said yourself that her chances of waking up diminish with each passing day." "That's generally true, but I need closure, doctor," Tyler interrupted, his voice cracking with what Rachel knew was fake emotion. "Seeing her like this, day after day, it's destroying me. And managing her business affairs while dealing with this emotional toll, I'm barely holding it together." Dr. Hamid was silent for a moment. "Mr. Donovan, I understand this is difficult," he said carefully, "but we typically don't consider removing life support until all possibilities of recovery have been exhausted. Your wife is breathing on her own. Her brain shows activity. These are positive signs. But she's not waking up," Tyler pressed. "How long do I have to wait before we can make this decision? Weeks? Months? Years?" That's not what Rachel would want. "Let me be clear," Dr. Hamid said firmly, straightening slightly. "As her physician, I would not support removing care at this stage. It would be premature and, in my professional opinion, inappropriate." "I see," Tyler said, his voice cooling. "Perhaps I should speak with the hospital administration about bringing in another doctor for a second opinion. Someone who might be more understanding of our situation." "That is your right," Dr. Hamid replied stiffly, "but I'm confident any ethical physician would give you the same answer at this stage." "We'll see about that," Tyler said. "Thank you for your time, doctor." After Dr. Hamid left, Tyler approached Rachel's bed. "You always did inspire such misplaced loyalty," he muttered. "First David, now this doctor. But it doesn't matter. I'll find someone more cooperative. Someone who understands that sometimes letting go is the kindest option." Rachel felt terror rising within her. Tyler was actively trying to remove her life support. He wasn't content to wait for nature to take its course anymore. He wanted her dead, and soon. Later that evening, when the room was quiet and Rachel was alone, the door opened softly. Light footsteps approached her bed. "Mrs. Donovan, it's Sarah, your night nurse." Rachel kept perfectly still, maintaining her coma appearance. "I'm just checking your vitals," Sarah continued, adjusting something on the monitors. Then her voice dropped to a whisper. "Dr. Hamid asked me to keep a special eye on you, to let him know if anything unusual happens with your husband's visits." Rachel felt her pulse quicken slightly. "Your heart rate just increased," Sarah noted. "I've been watching you for a while now, Mrs. Donovan. I've noticed things, how your heart rate changes when certain people are in the room, the tear when your manager visited, the tension in your face when your husband is here." Sarah leaned closer. Mrs. Donovan, if you can hear me, I want you to know you're not alone. Dr. Hamid has concerns, and so do I. If you can hear me, if you're in there, blink. Rachel hesitated. Could she trust this nurse? What if it was a trap set by Tyler? Your husband isn't here, Sarah reassured her, as if reading her thoughts. It's just you and me. If you can hear me, please, give me some sign. Taking a leap of faith, Rachel slowly opened her eyes. Sarah gasped softly, her eyes widening. You are conscious, she whispered. Please, Rachel rasped, her voice weak from disuse. He can't know. Your husband? Rachel nodded slightly. He did this to me. The accident, he wants me dead. Sarah looked stunned. Dr. Hamid suspected something wasn't right, but this, she whispered. He's trying to get my life support removed, Rachel said urgently. He's stealing everything I own. Please, I need help. I'll tell Dr. Hamid right away, Sarah said. We should contact the police. No, Rachel interrupted. Not yet. Tyler has friends in the department. I need evidence first, proof of what he did. How can I help? Sarah asked without hesitation. Help me stay alive, Rachel pleaded. And help me find a way to communicate with David, my former operations manager. He's already suspicious. He might be able to find evidence of what Tyler's done. Sarah nodded. I can do that. And I have something else that might interest you. There's a man who's been coming by the hospital asking about you. Security keeps turning him away because he's not on your approved visitors list. A man who, he says his name is Max, says he was there when your SUV went off the old cliff road near the marina, that he pulled you out before the vehicle exploded. Your husband has been telling everyone you were rescued by emergency services, but this man insists it was him. Rachel felt a jolt of recognition. She had a vague memory, rough hands pulling her from the wreckage, a bearded face looming over her, telling her to hold on. Find him, Rachel whispered. Please. I will, Sarah promised. And in the meantime, I'll help you build your strength when no one's around. If your husband is planning what you say, you'll need to be ready. For the first time since waking up to her nightmare, Rachel felt a glimmer of hope. She wasn't alone anymore. She had allies. Now she just needed to stay alive long enough to expose the truth. The next morning, when Rachel was alone, Sarah slipped into her room carrying a small duffel bag. Good morning, she whispered, checking that the door was fully closed. I've brought some things to help with your physical therapy. Rachel opened her eyes, still marveling at the simple freedom of being able to do so when it was safe. Any news about Max? I found him, Sarah confirmed, pulling small hand weights and resistance bands from her bag. He's been living under the bridge near the marina where your accident happened. Seems he feels responsible for you in some way. How did you find him? I asked around at the shelter where I volunteer on weekends. He comes in sometimes for meals. Sarah helped Rachel sit up slightly, supporting her back. He's agreed to meet with me after my shift today. I'll bring him here tomorrow night, when the floor is quiet. Thank you, Rachel said sincerely. What about David? That's trickier. Your husband has specifically instructed security not to allow him in the building, but I have an idea about that too. Sarah showed Rachel how to grip one of the small weights. Let's work on your hand strength first. You've lost muscle tone from being immobile. As they worked through gentle exercises, Sarah explained her plan. I have a friend who works at your main marina office. I can pass a message to David through her. If he can meet me away from the hospital, we can figure out a way for him to see you without your husband knowing. Rachel winced at the pain in her atrophied muscles but pushed through it. Tyler is becoming more aggressive about removing my life support. He's looking for a different doctor who will approve it. Dr. Hamid is fighting it, Sarah assured her. He's documenting every positive sign in your condition to build a case against withdrawal of care. But what? Your husband is persistent, and he's telling everyone how dedicated he is to honoring your wishes. Sarah helped Rachel extend her arm carefully. He's very convincing. Even some of the staff are starting to sympathize with him. He's always been good at manipulating people, Rachel said bitterly. It's why I never saw the truth until it was too late. They worked in silence for a few minutes. Rachel fought through the discomfort of muscles awakening after weeks of disuse. Can I ask you something personal? Sarah finally said. Of course. Why is he doing this? Just for your money? Rachel sighed. I think it started that way. Tyler came into my life when my business was just beginning to take off. He was charming, attentive, everything I thought I wanted. I was so busy building my company, I didn't see what was happening. Which was, he resented my success, my independence. He wanted the lifestyle my money could provide, but he hated that it came from me. Rachel's voice hardened. And then he met Sabrina, my assistant. She made him feel powerful in ways I never did. They've been planning this for over a year, from what I've overheard. Sarah shook her head. It's hard to imagine living with someone who could do this. The worst part is I never saw it coming, Rachel said. She let her arm drop, exhausted from the simple exercise. I thought we were happy, or at least content. I knew we'd grown apart, but murder? She laughed humorlessly. I never suspected he hated me enough to want me dead. We'll stop him, Sarah promised, helping Rachel back into a reclining position. But for now, you need to rest. I'll be back tonight with more exercises. And tomorrow, I'll bring Max. After Sarah left, Rachel closed her eyes, not pretending this time, but truly resting. Her mind was clearer now than it had been since the accident, and with clarity came determination. Tyler might have tried to take everything from her, but he had underestimated her. He always had. The next night, true to her word, Sarah returned with a visitor. Rachel, who had been fighting unconsciousness, as she always did when the door opened, heard 2 sets of footsteps enter her room. It's just us, Sarah whispered. You can open your eyes. Rachel looked up to see Sarah standing beside a tall, bearded man in worn clothes. He stared at Rachel with a mixture of shock and relief. You're awake, he said, his voice gruff but gentle. Max, Rachel said, recognizing him from her fragmented memories. You pulled me from the SUV. He nodded, moving awkwardly to the side of her bed. Didn't think you'd. Remember that part? Not clearly, Rachel admitted. But I remember someone telling me to hold on. That was you, wasn't it? Yeah. Max shifted uncomfortably, clearly unused to being the center of attention. I was living under that bridge, heard the crash, saw your SUV go over. By the time I got down there, water was already filling it up. You saved my life, Rachel said softly. Max shrugged. Didn't do much good if your husband's trying to finish the job. Rachel exchanged a glance with Sarah. You know about that? I've been watching him, Max said simply. Something seemed off from the beginning. The way he acted at the scene of the crash, he wasn't right. What do you mean? Rachel asked, sitting up straighter. When the paramedics arrived, he was, I don't know, not like a man whose wife just nearly died. He was asking about your condition, sure, but it was like he was just checking boxes. And then later. I saw him at your marina office. My marina? Yeah, a couple days after the crash, I went there. I'd found your business card in the SUV when I pulled you out. Thought someone should know what really happened, but when I got there, I saw him in the parking lot with that woman. Sabrina, Rachel supplied. Yeah, her. They were celebrating, hugging, laughing. It wasn't right. Max's eyes darkened. So I started paying attention, and then I overheard them talking about the brakes. Rachel's heart raced. You heard them admit to tampering with my SUV? Max nodded. They didn't see me. I was collecting cans from the marina dumpster. They were in the back lot, thought they were alone. The woman, Sabrina, she was worried about the police investigation. Your husband told her not to worry. Said he'd paid the mechanic well to make it look like simple brake failure from wear and tear. Max, Rachel said urgently, would you be willing to tell this to the police? He hesitated. Police and I don't exactly get along, and who would believe me over a rich businessman? They would if we had proof, Sarah interjected. Max, did you happen to see which mechanic they were talking about? Better than that, Max said, reaching into his jacket pocket. I went to the junkyard where they took your SUV. Security's pretty lax there at night. I found these. He pulled out a plastic bag containing what looked like damaged brake line components. The mechanic cut the line most of the way through, but made it look like normal wear, Max explained. These parts still have the tool marks on them. A forensic expert could prove it wasn't accidental failure. Rachel stared at the evidence in amazement. Max, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything yet, he replied, putting the parts away carefully. We still need to catch them admitting what they did. Your word against his isn't enough, and these parts alone won't prove who did the cutting. Sarah touched Rachel's shoulder. I have more news. I got a message to David. He's going to meet me tomorrow at the coffee shop across the street. I told him it was about you, but I didn't explain everything yet. Good, Rachel said, her mind racing with possibilities. We need to be careful about how much we share and with whom. Tyler's been forging my signature on documents. David might be able to help prove that. There's something else you should know, Sarah said hesitantly. Your husband came by earlier today while you were sleeping. He was with another doctor, a specialist from another hospital. They were discussing your condition, and the new doctor seemed much more amenable to the idea of withdrawing care. Rachel felt cold fear wash over her. How soon? I'm not sure, but from what I overheard, they're talking about making a decision within the week. Then we don't have much time, Rachel said firmly. We need to coordinate our efforts. Sarah, when you meet with David tomorrow, bring him up to speed. But be careful. If Tyler suspects anything, he could accelerate his plans. I'll be careful, Sarah promised. Max, Rachel continued, can you keep those brake components safe? They're our best physical evidence. He nodded. Got them hidden, where no one will find them. Good, and I need to keep building my strength, Rachel said, determination hardening her voice. When the moment comes to confront Tyler, I need to be ready. As they finalized their plans, Rachel felt something she hadn't experienced since before the accident. Purpose. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was fighting back. And with these unexpected allies at her side, she finally had a chance at justice. The following evening, Sarah returned to Rachel's room, looking energized. I met with David, she said as soon as she'd closed the door. He's been investigating Tyler on his own. He's gathered quite a bit of evidence already. Rachel sat up eagerly. What kind of evidence? Financial records showing Tyler has been systematically transferring your assets to new accounts under his control, forged signatures on legal documents, and he's found a pattern in Tyler's past that you might find interesting. What pattern? Rachel asked as Sarah helped her with her exercises. As she explained, before Tyler met you, he dated 2 other wealthy women. Both relationships ended when the women suddenly experienced financial problems. One lost her business in what appeared to be a series of bad investments. The other had her identity stolen, resulting in massive debt. You think Tyler was responsible? David is certain of it. He's been tracking down these women. One of them is willing to talk about what happened. Rachel processed this information as she worked on strengthening her legs. So I wasn't his first target, just his most ambitious one. Exactly. But here's the good news. David has contacts in the district attorney's office who aren't connected to Tyler's friends in the local police. He thinks we have enough to start building a case, but we need something definitive. Tyler and Sabrina explicitly discussing their plan. And we need it quickly, Rachel added grimly. Tyler is pushing to have my life support removed within days. Sarah nodded. That's why David brought this. She reached into her pocket and pulled out what looked like a small decorative pin. It's a recording device. We can hide it in your room to capture their conversations when they think no one is listening. Will it work? Rachel asked, examining the tiny device. David says it has excellent audio quality and can record for hours. The challenge is hiding it somewhere Tyler won't notice, but where it can still pick up their voices clearly. They decided to attach the device to the underside of the bedside table, positioning it carefully to capture conversations around Rachel's bed. Now we wait, Sarah said, and hope they say something incriminating enough to use against them. And if they don't? Rachel asked. Sarah's expression grew serious. Then Dr. Hamid and I will have to take official action based on our suspicions. It might not be enough to prove Tyler's guilt, but it should be enough to prevent him from removing your life support while an investigation takes place. The next day, Rachel maintained her Coma facade as Tyler arrived, with Sabrina in tow. They seemed particularly animated. Everything's set, Tyler was saying as they entered. I've convinced the hospital ethics committee to meet tomorrow to discuss Rachel's case. The new specialist is fully on board with our perspective. How long after the meeting until they, Sabrina asked. If all goes as planned, they could remove life support as early as the day after tomorrow, Tyler said, sounding pleased with himself. Dr. Hamid is still objecting, of course. but he's being overruled. I've made quite an impression, as the devoted husband making the difficult but loving choice." Sabrina giggled. "You've always been a good actor." "It's almost over, baby," Tyler said, and Rachel could hear the sound of them kissing. "By this time tomorrow, we'll be finalizing the last of the paperwork. I've already transferred most of the major assets. The marinas are next." "What about that manager? David? Is he still causing problems?" "Not for much longer," Tyler said darkly. "I've arranged for some discrepancies to be found in the accounting at the main office. By the time I'm done, he'll be facing embezzlement charges." Rachel felt a surge of anger. Not only was Tyler trying to kill her, he was planning to destroy David's reputation and possibly send him to prison. "You think of everything," Sabrina purred. "That's why I love you." "The accident should have finished her off properly," Tyler said, his voice hardening as he presumably looked at Rachel. "But this way works too. Cleaner, in some ways. No one will question a grieving husband inheriting his wife's fortune after making the painful decision to let her go when there was no hope of recovery." "How much longer do we have to keep visiting her like this?" Sabrina complained. "It's depressing." "Just until it's done. We need to maintain appearances. Besides," Tyler added with a cold laugh, "I rather enjoy these little chats, telling her exactly what we've done, knowing she can't do a thing about it." "You're wicked," Sabrina teased. "You have no idea," Tyler replied. "Now let's go. We have a meeting with the lawyers to finalize the paperwork for the marina transfer. By the time Rachel flatlines, everything will be legally mine." After they left, Rachel waited several minutes to ensure they wouldn't return. Then she opened her eyes. The recording device had captured everything. Now, they had proof of Tyler's intentions, his admission about the accident, and his plan to frame David. It was time to set their own plan in motion. That night, Sarah, David, and Max gathered in Rachel's room for a final strategy session. "The recording is clear," David confirmed after listening to it. "Combined with the brake components Max salvaged and the financial documentation I've gathered, we have a strong case." "But we need to move quickly," Sarah added. "The ethics committee meets tomorrow at 10 a.m. If they approve withdrawal of care, Tyler could have Rachel's life support removed as early as the following morning." "So what's the plan?" Max asked, looking between them. Rachel sat up straighter in her bed, stronger now after days of secret physical therapy. "Tyler and Sabrina are coming tomorrow afternoon to meet with the lawyer here at the hospital. They're planning to finalize the paperwork for transferring my marinas." "That's our opportunity," David said with a nod. "I've spoken with Detective Rivera from the district attorney's office. She's been investigating financial crimes and has had Tyler on her radar for some time, though she never had enough evidence to move forward." "She'll be here with officers," Sarah added, "waiting for our signal." Rachel took a deep breath. "When Tyler and Sabrina are here, discussing the final details of their plan, thinking I can't hear them, that's when I'll reveal I've been conscious all along." "Are you sure you're strong enough?" Sarah asked with concern. "I have to be," Rachel said firmly. "Tyler needs to see me awake, to know that I heard everything, that I know exactly what he did." "It's risky," Max warned. "He might become violent when he realizes you've been faking." "That's why you'll all be nearby," Rachel said, "and why Detective Rivera and her officers will be just outside." They finalized the details of their plan, each person knowing their role. As her allies left to get some rest before the confrontation, Rachel lay back in her bed, her mind racing. Tomorrow would change everything. Either she would reclaim her life and see justice done, or Tyler would find a way to silence her permanently. Either way, the pretense would finally be over. The next morning dawned with a tense energy. Rachel went through her usual routine of pretending to be unconscious during the shift change and morning rounds. Dr. Hamid came in for his examination, speaking to her normally for the benefit of any observers, while slipping her updates in a whispered tone. "The ethics committee is meeting now," he murmured while checking her vitals. "I've presented all the medical evidence against withdrawal of care. But Tyler's new specialist is quite persuasive, and Tyler himself gave quite a performance about honoring your wishes." Rachel squeezed his hand slightly in acknowledgement. "Detective Rivera is in position," Dr. Hamid continued quietly. She has officers stationed around the floor, dressed as hospital personnel. No one will recognize them. After he left, Rachel focused on controlling her breathing and staying calm. Everything hinged on timing now. Sarah had helped her apply a minimal amount of makeup early that morning, enough to give her some color, but not enough that Tyler would notice. The recording device was in place with a fresh battery to ensure it captured everything. Around noon, Sarah slipped in to give Rachel an update. "The ethics committee approved withdrawal of care," she said grimly. "They've scheduled it for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Rachel felt a chill run through her. Then this is our only chance. Tyler and Sabrina are coming at 2 p.m. with the lawyer. David and Max are already in position. Detective Rivera has reviewed all our evidence and is prepared to make arrests based on what she already has. But the recording we get today will seal the case." Sarah helped Rachel sit up and stretch, working through their now familiar routine of exercises designed to prepare her for what was coming. By the time Sarah left to take her position, Rachel felt as ready as she could be. At precisely 2 p.m., Rachel heard Tyler's voice in the hallway, along with Sabrina's and a third voice she didn't recognize. Presumably the lawyer. She settled back into her coma position, eyes closed, breathing even, face relaxed. The door opened, and 3 people entered. "As you can see, counselor, my wife's condition remains unchanged," Tyler was saying, his voice carrying that perfect note of practiced grief. "The ethics committee has approved withdrawal of care for tomorrow morning." "I understand, Mr. Donovan," the lawyer replied. "And you're certain this is what your wife would want?" "Absolutely," Tyler affirmed. Rachel was always clear about not wanting extraordinary measures if there was no hope of recovery. As painful as it is, I'm honoring her wishes. "Very well," the lawyer said. "Let's review the final transfer documents for the marinas. Once these are signed, all of Mrs. Donovan's business holdings will be legally under your control." Rachel heard the rustle of papers, the scrape of chairs as they seated themselves near her bed. "Just to confirm," the lawyer continued, "these transfers are being done under the power of attorney Mrs. Donovan granted you before her accident?" "That's correct," Tyler lied smoothly. "Rachel trusted me implicitly with all her affairs." Rachel had never signed any such document, and they all knew it. The power of attorney Tyler was using was a forgery, like so many other documents. "The timing is fortunate," the lawyer remarked. "Having these transfers completed before tomorrow's procedure will simplify the estate considerably." "Yes, it will," Tyler agreed. Rachel would have wanted a clean transition, with minimal disruption to the businesses she built. The casual hypocrisy of his words made Rachel's blood boil, but she maintained her facade. As the lawyer guided Tyler through the documents, explaining various clauses and requirements, Sabrina grew impatient. "Could we speed this up?" she asked sharply. "This room is depressing." "Sabrina," Tyler chided gently, "show some respect." "For what?" Sabrina scoffed quietly. "She can't hear us, and by this time tomorrow she'll be gone anyway." "Still," the lawyer said, sounding uncomfortable, "perhaps we should continue this in the consultation room." "No need," Tyler said firmly. "I want to be here, with my wife. Let's continue." They proceeded through more documents, Tyler asking occasional questions about various legal points. Rachel carefully controlled her breathing, waiting for the right moment. Finally, the lawyer said, "That's the last of them, Mr. Donovan. If you'll just sign here, the transfer will be complete." "With pleasure," Tyler replied. Rachel could picture him signing with a flourish, finally achieving what he had been planning for so long. This was it, the moment to act. "And if Mrs. Donovan should unexpectedly recover?" the lawyer asked, almost as an afterthought. There was a pause. Then Tyler laughed softly. "She won't." "But hypothetically," the lawyer pressed, "these transfers would be subject to challenge if she were to regain consciousness and dispute them." "Trust me, counselor," Tyler said coldly. "That won't be an issue after tomorrow." "I simply want to be clear about all possibilities," the lawyer insisted. "As your legal advisor." "The accident should have killed her," Sabrina interrupted impatiently. "We wouldn't even be having this conversation if the brake line had failed properly." "Sabrina," Tyler hissed, "not now." "What? He's your lawyer, isn't he? And she can't hear us." Sabrina's voice grew closer to Rachel's bed. "Look at her, completely gone, just an empty shell, taking up space. The lawyer cleared his throat uncomfortably. I think we should. By this time tomorrow, we'll finally be free of her, Tyler said, his voice now stripped of all pretense of care or concern. The ventilator comes off at 9 a.m., and that's that. The doctors say it shouldn't take long after that. Rachel had heard enough. It was time. Slowly, deliberately, she opened her eyes. The room came into focus. Tyler and Sabrina standing near the foot of her bed, the lawyer gathering papers by the window, all three with their backs to her. Rachel pushed herself up slightly and said in a clear, steady voice, I wouldn't want that at all, Tyler. The effect was instantaneous. The lawyer dropped his papers. Sabrina screamed. And Tyler turned slowly, his face draining of color as he stared at his very conscious wife. Rachel, he whispered, shock and horror mingling in his expression. Surprise, Rachel said, her voice stronger than even she had expected. I've been awake for weeks. That's impossible, Tyler stammered. The doctors said. They said. What I asked them to say, Rachel cut him off. After I overheard you and Sabrina celebrating your successful plan, the day I regained consciousness. Sabrina backed toward the door. She's confused, brain damage. She doesn't know what she's saying. I know exactly what I'm saying, Rachel countered. I know you tampered with my brakes. I know you've been forging my signature and stealing my assets. And I know you were planning to finish the job tomorrow by removing my life support. Tyler seemed to recover himself, his shock giving way to calculation. Rachel, darling, you've been through a traumatic experience. Your mind is playing tricks. Save it, Tyler, Rachel interrupted. I heard everything. Every conversation, every plan, every cruel remark you made at my bedside, thinking I couldn't hear you. The lawyer moved toward the door. I should go. This is clearly a private. Stay right there, ordered a new voice. As the door opened, Detective Rivera entered, flanked by two uniformed officers. No one is leaving yet. Tyler's eyes darted between Rachel and the detective. What is this? Tyler Donovan, Detective Rivera said formally, you're under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy. This is ridiculous, Tyler protested, his charm instantly returning. My wife has just awakened from a coma. She's confused, disoriented. Whatever she thinks she heard. We don't need her testimony, the detective cut in, though it will certainly help. She held up a small device. We have recordings of your conversations in this room, very incriminating conversations. You can't record people without their knowledge, Tyler argued. That's illegal. Any recordings would be inadmissible. Actually, David said, entering the room with Sarah and Max behind him, in this state, only one party needs to consent to a recording. Rachel consented. And we have more than just recordings, Max added, stepping forward with the plastic bag containing the brake components. Physical evidence of tampering with her SUV. Sabrina suddenly made a break for the door, shoving past one of the officers, but was quickly apprehended in the hallway. Tyler's facade finally cracked, his face contorted with rage as he looked at Rachel. You stupid. You couldn't just die, could you? Always have to be in control. Always have to win. Officers, Detective Rivera nodded, and the police moved to handcuff Tyler. As they led him away, Tyler turned back to Rachel, his eyes burning with hate. You think this is over? You've got nothing. I'll be out on bail by tonight. Rachel met his gaze steadily. I heard everything, Tyler. Every plan, every lie, and now everyone else will hear it too. After Tyler and Sabrina were taken away, the room fell silent. The lawyer stood awkwardly by the window, clutching his briefcase. Mrs. Donovan, I had no idea. I was told the power of attorney was legitimate. Save it, David said sharply. The DA will want to speak with you about your role in all of this. As the lawyer was escorted out, Rachel finally let herself relax against the pillows. It was over. After weeks of pretending, of lying completely still while her husband plotted her death, she was finally free. Sarah rushed to her side, checking her vitals. Are you okay? That must have been incredibly stressful. Rachel nodded, suddenly exhausted. It was worth it. She looked around the room, at Sarah, Max, and David. Thank you, all of you. I wouldn't have survived without your help. What happens now? Max asked, shoving his hands in his pockets awkwardly. Now, Rachel said with determination, I take back what's mine and build something better. 3 weeks later, Rachel stood at the entrance to her main marina office, supported by a cane, but standing proudly on her own. The building looked different somehow. Brighter, full of possibility. Ready? David asked, standing beside her. Rachel took a deep breath and nodded. More than ready. As they walked through the front doors, employees stopped what they were doing, turning to stare in amazement. Word of Rachel's recovery and Tyler's arrest had spread, but few had seen her in person since before the accident. Mrs. Donovan, one of the receptionists, gasped, rushing forward. We had no idea you were coming in today. I thought it was time, Rachel said with a smile. Time to come home. The news of her arrival spread quickly through the building. Staff members appeared from offices and the dockyard area, gathering in the main lobby. Rachel recognized faces. Some had been with her for years. Others were newer, hired during her absence. I want to thank you all for keeping this place running during my absence, Rachel addressed the group. I know it hasn't been easy, especially with the confusion of the past few months. An understatement, of course. Tyler had fired loyal employees, hired his own people, and begun dismantling the culture Rachel had carefully built. The damage would take time to repair. I also want to introduce, or reintroduce for some of you, David Chen, Rachel continued, gesturing to her side. As you may have heard, David was instrumental in uncovering what really happened during my accident. As of today, he's officially my Chief Operations Officer. Applause broke out, especially from the longtime employees who knew and respected David. There will be changes in the coming weeks, Rachel continued. Some necessary restructuring. But I want you all to know that this company is back in my hands, and together we're going to make it stronger than before. After the impromptu meeting, Rachel settled into her office, now cleared of Tyler's belongings, with David to discuss next steps. The forensic accountants have traced most of the assets Tyler transferred, David reported. We should be able to recover about 80% of what he took. That's better than I expected, Rachel admitted. What about the legal situation? The DA is building a strong case. Tyler and Sabrina were both denied bail. The flight risk was too high, and the attempted murder charges are serious. Max's testimony about the brake tampering is crucial, David added, and the recordings from your hospital room are damning. Rachel nodded, looking out the window at the marina floor. And what about Max? How's he doing with the new job? Rachel asked. David smiled. Surprisingly well. He started in the detail department, but he's shown an aptitude for mechanical work. The service manager wants to move him to oil changes and basic maintenance. Make sure he gets whatever training he needs, Rachel said. After what he did for me, finding those brake parts, risking his safety, I owe him a real chance. Already arranged, David assured her. And Sarah called. She wanted to know if you're still coming to dinner on Friday. Rachel smiled. During her recovery, she'd grown close to the nurse who had risked her job to help expose Tyler's plan. Their friendship had been unexpected but valuable, one of the few positive outcomes of the whole ordeal. Tell her I wouldn't miss it, Rachel replied. Now, let's talk about that foundation idea I mentioned. Over the next month, Rachel gradually reclaimed her life. The physical recovery was challenging. Her body had weakened during her hospital stay, despite Sarah's secret physical therapy sessions, but her determination never wavered. The legal proceedings moved forward. Tyler and Sabrina were charged with attempted murder, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. The evidence against them was overwhelming. The brake components with clear signs of tampering, the recordings of their conversations, bank records showing the fraudulent transfers, and testimony from the mechanic Tyler had paid to sabotage Rachel's SUV. The mechanic, facing his own charges, had agreed to testify against Tyler in exchange for leniency. His detailed account of how Tyler had approached him, what he'd been paid, and exactly what he'd done to ensure the brakes would fail at high pressure sealed the case. 6 months after Rachel had first opened her eyes and heard her husband plotting her death, she hosted a small gathering at her home, not the mansion she had shared with Tyler, but a new place. Modern and open, with none of the painful memories of her old life. Sarah arrived first, bringing a bottle of wine and a warm hug. You look amazing, she said, stepping back to admire Rachel's recovery. The cane is gone? As of last week, Rachel smiled, and the confirmed physical therapy finally paid off. David and his wife arrived next, followed by Max, almost unrecognizable in clean clothes, his beard neatly trimmed, his face healthier after months of regular meals and stable housing. "The place looks great," Max said awkwardly, clearly still uncomfortable in social situations, but making an effort. "Thank you," Rachel replied warmly. "How's the new apartment?" "Still getting used to having 4 walls and a roof," Max admitted with a small smile. "But it's good. Really good." Rachel led them to the patio overlooking the city lights. As they settled into comfortable chairs, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. "I have news," she announced once they all had drinks in hand. "The Rachel Donovan Foundation is officially up and running. Our first initiative will be a partnership with the downtown shelter to provide job training and transitional housing for homeless individuals." "That's wonderful," Sarah said, squeezing Rachel's hand. "I know that's been a dream of yours since the hospital." "It has," Rachel acknowledged. "And I have more news." The jury returned a verdict today in Tyler and Sabrina's trial. The group fell silent, waiting. "Guilty on all counts," Rachel said simply. "Tyler will serve a minimum of 25 years. Sabrina got 15. A collective sigh of relief passed through the group. Justice had been served. "To new beginnings," David proposed, raising his glass. "And to unexpected friendships," Rachel added, looking around at the unlikely allies who had become her closest friends. "Without you, I wouldn't be here. You didn't just save my life, you helped me build a better one." As the evening continued, Rachel found herself stepping away for a moment of solitude. Standing at the edge of her patio, looking out at the city lights, she reflected on how completely her life had changed. She had lost her marriage, discovered terrible betrayal, and faced death. But in the process, she had found something far more valuable. People who stood by her, not for what she could give them, but for who she truly was. Sarah joined her by the railing. "Penny for your thoughts?" Rachel smiled. "I was just thinking about how strangely life works. Tyler thought he was taking everything from me, my business, my wealth, my life. But in trying to destroy me, he actually gave me something priceless." "What's that?" Sarah asked. "Clarity," Rachel replied. "About what matters, who matters." She glanced at Sarah, their eyes meeting with unspoken understanding. The friendship that had begun in that hospital room had grown into something deeper, more meaningful than either had expected. "I'd go through it all again," Rachel said softly, "if it meant ending up right here." The next morning, Rachel drove herself to the hospital for one final checkup. As she walked through the corridors where she had once been confined, she felt a strange sense of gratitude. This place had been her prison, but also where she had found the strength to fight back. Dr. Hammond greeted her with a warm smile. "Mrs. Donovan, it's good to see you up and about. How are you feeling?" "Better than I have in years," Rachel replied truthfully. "And please call me Rachel." After a thorough examination, Dr. Hammond declared her fully recovered. "Physically, you're in excellent health. And mentally, well, you've shown remarkable resilience." "I had help," Rachel acknowledged. "Good people who stepped up when I needed them most." As Rachel prepared to leave, Dr. Hammond hesitated. "You know, in all my years of practice, I've never seen anything quite like your case. The woman who had to pretend to be in a coma to save her own life." Rachel smiled. "Sometimes, playing dead is the only way to truly start living." Later that day, Rachel drove away from the hospital for the final time, with Sarah beside her. As they turned onto the main road, Rachel felt the last weight lift from her shoulders. "Where to?" Sarah asked. "Forward," Rachel replied simply. "Just forward. Dear friend, life doesn't always shout before it strikes. Sometimes it whispers, softly breaking what we thought was unshakable." Like Rachel, many of us won't see betrayal coming. And when it hits, it doesn't just wound, it rewrites everything we thought we knew about love, trust, and safety. But here's what the Stoics taught us, and what Rachel's story proves. We may not control what happens to us, but we always control what we do next. True strength isn't loud. It's quiet. It's that voice inside you that says, "Not yet. Hold on. Just a little longer." It's the stillness beneath the chaos. It's the power to wait, to observe, to endure, and then to rise. So if you're hurting, if you've ever felt betrayed, silenced, or dismissed, I want you to remember this. You are not broken. You are becoming. What nearly destroys you can also define you, but only if you let it refine you. And when you're standing in the rubble of what used to be, choose forward. Not because it's easy, but because it's yours. Forward isn't just a direction. It's a decision. If this story touched something in you, if it made you pause or feel seen, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. It's more than support. It's helping us keep stories like this alive for someone who may need it most. What would you have done in Rachel's shoes? Would you have had the courage to stay still when your heart was screaming to fight? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to ring that bell so you never miss the stories that remind us just how strong the human spirit can be. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is survive long enough to choose ourselves. Until next time.